A man went to see his rabbi. He stated in a very serious tone, "Rabbi, something terrible is happening and I have to talk to you about it." The rabbi asked, "What's wrong?" The man replied, "My wife is poisoning me." The rabbi, very surprised by this, asked, "How can that be?" The man then pleaded, "I'm telling you, I'm certain she's poisoning me. What should I do?" The rabbi then said, "Tell you what, let me talk to her. I'll see what I can find out and I'll let you know." A week later, the rabbi called the man and said, "Well, I met with your wife. We talked for 3 hours. The man anxiously replied, "Yes." "You want my advice?" Again, the man anxiously replied, "Yes." "Take the poison," said the rabbi. A bear cub ambles up to his father. "Daddy," he asks sheepishly, "am I a polar bear?" "What are they putting in your head, son?" "Of course you're a polar bear. Your mom's a polar bear. I'm a polar bear. Your brother and sisters are polar bears. We're a family of polar bears." At that point, the cub's mother strolls by. "Mommy, Daddy says I'm a polar bear, but I don't think so." "Be honest. Level with me. Am I really a polar bear?" "Of course you are, sweetie," she says in a very mother bear voice. "You eat seals, swim in the ocean. You've got that adorable black button nose and beautiful coat of white fur. Whatever would make you think you weren't a polar bear?" Looking even more distraught than ever, the little bear screams angrily, "Because I'm bloody freezing!" My wife told me she feels like she is losing her hair. I told her I had noticed, but hadn't wanted to say anything. She asked me where had I noticed it. I told her that her mustache seemed thinner. One day, a little girl was sitting and watching her mother wash the dishes at the kitchen sink. She suddenly noticed that her mother had several strands of white hair sticking out against her dark head. Curious, she asked, "Mummy, why are some of your hairs white?" Her mother smiled and said, "Well, every time you do something that makes me sad or upset, one of my hairs turns white." The little girl thought for a moment, then asked innocently, "Oh, then how come all of Grandma's hairs are white?" My 6-year-old says to me, "Lulu, Dad, will you remember me in 10 years? Me?" "Yes, baby. I'm not that old yet. I love you." Lou. "Okay, I love you too." Knock, knock me. "Who's there?" Lulu. "Dad, you already forgot who I am?" I thought she was being serious. She was straight-faced until the end. A gynecologist notices that a new patient is nervous. While putting on the latex gloves, he asks her if she knows how they make latex gloves. The patient says no. The doctor says, "There is a plant in Mexico full of latex that people of various hand sizes dip their hands into and let them dry." She does not crack a smile, but later she laughs. The doctor says, "What's so funny?" She says, "I'm imagining how they make condoms." Woman goes to the doctor's and says, "I'm getting too much discharge." Doctor says, "Pop your knickers off and slip onto the bed." He puts on his latex gloves and applies 3 fingers into her vagina. "How does that feel?" he asks. "F***ing lovely," she replies. "But the discharge is in my ear." A was man drowning his sorrows at the bar. A beautiful woman sat down beside him and asked, "What is wrong?" He said, "My wife just left me because I am too kinky in bed." The lady gasped, "My husband left me for the same reason." A few drinks later, they end up at her place and she says, "I'm going to the bathroom to change into something more comfortable." 10 minutes later, she comes out, dressed head to toe in latex with a whip, but the man is headed out the door. She asks, "Where are you going? I thought you wanted to get kinky." He said, "Hey, lady, I've already f***ed your dog and shit in your purse." I am going home. A man finds a hair in his chicken noodle soup. Annoyed, he tells the waitress, "That's disgusting," and storms out without paying. The waitress watches him leave and sees him head across the street to a nearby hotel. After her shift, She goes to the hotel, explains the situation at the desk, and the clerk kindly gives her the guest's room number. She knocks, but the door is cracked open, so she slips inside and discovers the man in the middle of an intimate moment with a woman who's surprisingly hairy downstairs. "You disgusting pig," the waitress snaps. "You'll eat a hairy woman, but you walk out on your bill over one hair in your soup?" The man wipes his mouth and replies, cool as can be, "Trust me, sweetheart. If I find a noodle in this woman's I won't pay for this either." A bus stops and two Italian men get on. They seat themselves and begin to engage in animated conversation. A lady sitting behind them ignores their conversation at first, but her attention is galvanized when she hears one of the men say the following: "Emma come first, den I come eat. Den two asses come together. I come once a more. Two asses, they come together again. Den I come again and pee twice. Den I come one last a time." The woman sitting behind them is shocked. "You foul-mouthed swine," retorted the lady indignantly. "In this country, we don't talk about our sex lives in public." "Hey, cool down, lady," says the man. "Who talking about a sex? I'ma just a tell my friend how to spell a Mississippi." Little Johnny was seated next to a stranger on a plane. The stranger turned to him and said, "Let's talk. I've heard that flights will go quicker if you strike up a conversation with your fellow passenger." Little Johnny, who had just opened his book, closed it slowly and asked the stranger, "What would you like to discuss?" "Oh, I don't know," answered the stranger. "How about nuclear power?" "That could be an interesting topic," replied Johnny, "but let me ask you a question first. A horse, a cow, and a deer all eat grass. Yet a deer excretes little pellets, while a cow turns out a flat patty, and a horse produces clumps of dried grass. Why do you suppose that is?" "Geez," said the stranger, "I have no idea." "Well then," said little Johnny, "how is it that you feel qualified to discuss nuclear power when you don't know shit?" A chap is going on tour of a factory that produces latex products. At the first stop, he's shown the machine that manufactures baby bottle nipples. The machine makes a loud hiss-pop noise. "The hiss is the rubber being injected into the mold," explains the guide. "The popping sound is a needle poking a hole in the end of the nipple." Later, the tour reaches the part of the factory where condoms are made. The machine makes a noise. Hiss, 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 pop. "Wait a minute," says the visitor. "I understand what the hiss is, but what's that pop every so often?" "Oh, it's just the same as in the baby bottle nipple machine," says the guide. "It pokes a hole in every fourth condom." "Well, that can't be good for the condom." "No, but it's great for the baby bottle nipple business." A very shy guy goes into a bar and sees a beautiful woman sitting there. After an hour of gathering up his courage, he finally goes over to her and asks, "Would you mind if I chatted with you for a while?" She responds by yelling at the top of her lungs, "No, I won't sleep with you tonight." Everyone in the bar is now staring at them. Naturally, the guy is hopelessly and completely embarrassed, so he slinks back to his table. After a few minutes, the woman walks over to him and apologizes. She smiles at him and says, "I'm sorry if I embarrassed you. You see, I'm a graduate student in psychology and I'm studying how people respond to embarrassing situations." The man considers her apology for a moment, then responds at the top of his lungs, "What do you mean, $200? A guy walks into a bar and orders a beer. He says to the bartender, "I just entered a competition to see who gained the most weight and lost the most hair." The bartender frowns. "What kind of competition is that?" The guy shrugs and replies, "Oh, they didn't call it that. They advertised it as a high school class reunion." An old man is sitting on a park bench crying his eyes out. A young jogger comes by and asks him what is the matter. The old man says, "I'm a multi-millionaire. I have a great big house, the fastest car in the world, and I just married a beautiful blonde bombshell who satisfies me every night in bed, whether I like it or not." Sob. The young jogger says, "Man, you have everything I have ever dreamed for in my life. What could be so wrong in your life that you are sitting here in the park crying?" The old man says, "I can't remember where I live." Tired of constant blonde jokes, a blonde dyes her hair brown. She goes for a drive in the country and sees a shepherd herding his sheep across the road. "Hey, shepherd, if I guess how many sheep are here, can I keep one?" she asks. The shepherd agrees. She blurts out, 352. The shepherd is stunned, but keeps his word and allows her to pick a sheep. "I'll take this one," she says proudly. "It's the cutest." "Hey, lady," says the shepherd, "if I guess your real hair color, can I have my dog back?" A gorgeous young redhead on a flight from Ireland asked the priest beside her, "Father, may I ask a favor?" "Of course, child." "What may I do for you?" "Well, I bought my mother an expensive hair dryer for her birthday. It is unopened, but well over the customs limits, and I'm afraid they'll confiscate it. Is there any way you could carry it through customs for me? Hide it under your robes, perhaps?" "I would love to help you, dear, but I must warn you, I will not lie." "With your honest face, Father, no one will question you," she replied. When they got to customs, she let the priest go first. The official asked, "Father, do you have anything to declare?" "From the top of my head down to my waist, I have nothing to declare." The official thought this answer strange, so asked, "And what do you have to declare from your waist to the floor?" Father replied, "I have a marvelous instrument designed to be used on a woman, which is to date unused." Roaring with laughter, the official said, "Go ahead, Father." "Next, please." Interviewer, "How much amount of milk does your cow produce?" Farmer, "Which one, black one or white one?" Interviewer, "Black one." Farmer, 2 liters per day. Interviewer, "And the white one?" Farmer, 2 liters per day. Interviewer, "Where do they sleep?" Farmer, "The black one or the white one?" Interviewer, "The black one." Farmer, "In the barn." Interviewer, "And the white one?" Farmer, "In the barn." Interviewer, "Your cows look healthy. What do you feed them?" Farmer, "Which one? Black one or white one?" Interviewer, "Black one." Farmer, "Grass." Interviewer, "And the white one?" Farmer, "Grass." Interviewer, annoyed, "But why do you keep on asking if the black one or the white one when your answers are just the same?" Farmer, "Because the black one is mine." Interviewer, "And the white one?" Farmer, "It's also mine." The people did some research and found that they could buy a cow from Moscow for 2,000 rubles or one from Minsk for 1,000 rubles. Being frugal, they bought the cow from Minsk. The cow was wonderful. It produced lots of milk all the time, and the people were amazed and very happy. They decided to acquire a bull to mate with the cow and produce more cows like it. Then they would never have to worry about the milk supply again. They bought a bull and put it in the pasture with their beloved cow. However, whenever the bull came close to the cow would move away. No matter what approach the bull tried, the cow would move away from the bull, and he could not succeed in his quest. The people were very upset and decided to ask their wise rabbi what to do. They told the rabbi what was happening. "Whenever the bull approaches our cow, she moves away. If he approaches from the back, she moves forward. When he approaches her from the front, she backs off. An approach from the side, and she just walks away to the other side." The rabbi thought about this for a minute and asked, "Did you buy this cow from Minsk?" The people were dumbfounded, since they had never mentioned where they had gotten the cow. "You are truly a wise rabbi," they said. "How did you know we got the cow from Minsk?" The rabbi answered sadly, "My wife is from Minsk." A young couple were on their honeymoon and were staying at a hotel with a large swimming pool. They decided to go for a swim, and the bride donned a new bikini that she had recently purchased. As she swam and splashed around in the pool, she soon discovered that the bikini was too large and the top and bottom kept coming off. As they were the only ones in the pool, she and her husband would laugh and playfully retrieve the bikini from the pool's bottom. That evening, they dressed for dinner and headed to their hotel's elegant restaurant, where they were seated next to a huge aquarium. Strangely, the aquarium was devoid of any aquatic life. When the bride asked their waiter why the aquarium had no fish in it, he smiled broadly and said, "That's not an aquarium. That's the swimming pool." A classic senior slip-up. I reached into my purse. No keys. Checked my pockets. Still nothing. Panic mode. Activated. They must be in the car, I thought, already sprinting to the parking lot like I was in the Olympics. My husband's voice echoed in my head. "One day you're gonna leave those keys in the ignition and regret it." Well, that day had apparently come, because the car, gone, completely gone. Heart pounding, I called the police. "Officer, I think my car's been stolen." I left the keys inside. After filing the report, I braced myself for the real challenge, calling my husband. "Sweetheart," I said carefully, "something terrible happened. The car's gone." There was a pause, a long, terrifying pause. Then came his voice, slow and boiling with disbelief. "You mean the car I drove home after dropping you off?" Oh, right, that happened. So now I'm standing there feeling like the poster child for senior moments, while he's back at home trying to explain to the poor officer that he's not actually a car thief. Ah, the joys of getting older, still learning, still laughing, and sometimes still forgetting how you got to the grocery store in the first place. Thomas, at 32, was still single. One day, a friend asked him, "Why aren't you married? Haven't you found a woman who could make a good wife?" Thomas sighed and replied, "Well, I've found many women I wanted to marry, but every time I bring them home to meet my parents, my mother doesn't approve." His friend thought for a moment and said, "I've got the perfect solution. Just find someone who's exactly like your mother." A few months later, they bumped into each other again, and the friend eagerly asked, "Did you find the right girl? Did your mother like her?" Thomas frowned and replied, "Yes, I found the perfect girl. She was just like my mother." "You were right. My mother liked her very much." His friend, relieved, asked, "Then what's the problem?" Thomas replied with a deep sigh, "My father doesn't like her." A high-profile, big-ego attorney from the city was representing the railroad in a case filed by an old rancher. The rancher's prized bull had gone missing, and the rancher claimed that the noise from the train had scared the bull off. The rancher was suing the railroad for what he believed the bull was worth. When they arrived at the courthouse, the slick railroad lawyer saw an opportunity to settle and approached the old rancher before the trial began. After some quick talking, the old rancher agreed to settle for half of what he had been asking. Once the release was signed, the lawyer, feeling smug, couldn't resist bragging. "Well, I sure pulled one over on you. I never could have won this case." The engineer was asleep, and the fireman was in the caboose when the train went through. I didn't have a single witness to put on the stand. I was bluffing. The old rancher just yawned and replied, "Well, I'll tell you, Slick." I was worried about losing the case, too. That old bull came home this morning. A short, balding man bursts into a bar and shouts, "Give me a double of your strongest whiskey." I'm so mad I can't see straight. The bartender, a little concerned, pours him a Southern Comfort and watches him down it in one gulp. Better give me another, the man growls. Before pouring, the bartender says, "Hold on. Why don't you tell me what's got you so worked up?" The man sighs and begins. "I was at the bar next door when this gorgeous blonde sat right beside me. Next thing I know, her hand's in my lap. She licks my ear and whispers, 'Wanna come with me?' Of course I went. She took me to a hotel room, slipped out of her dress, nothing on underneath. I stripped down and jumped into bed. Just then, the door rattled. 'Oh no,' she said, 'it's my boyfriend.' He must have lost his wrestling match. I panicked. Closet? Too obvious. Under the bed? Forget it. The key's in the lock, so I scramble out the window and hang there by my fingertips, praying he doesn't look. The bartender nods. "Okay, yeah, that's rough." "That's nothing," the man continues. The boyfriend storms in, accusing her of cheating. He rips the closet door off. Thank God I didn't hide there. He flips the bed. Thank God I wasn't under it. Then he looks toward the window. I thought I was finished, but she distracted him and he went into the bathroom. I relaxed a little until he dumped a pitcher of scalding water out the window, right on my head. "Ouch," says the bartender. "That would have made me furious." "Nope, not yet," says the man. Then he started slamming the window shut on my fingers. Look, they're raw and bleeding. The bartender winces. I get it. That's enough to make anyone mad. The man shakes his head. Nope, that wasn't it either. Exasperated, the bartender asks, "Then what finally made you so angry?" The little man glares and shouts, "I finally looked down, and I was only 6 inches off the ground." A young man buys a chicken farm in the countryside, but knows little about raising chickens. Seeking advice, he approaches a seasoned farmer who agrees to help. "Meet me here tomorrow at 6 a.m., and I'll show you the ropes," the old farmer says. The next morning, the young man arrives and is stunned to see the farmer dressed to the nines, 3-piece suit, top hat, cane, monocle, and even spats. Confused but silent, he follows the farmer into the chicken coop. The moment they step inside, chaos erupts. A swarm of 20 to 30 chickens attacks the young man, pecking, clawing, and flapping relentlessly. After a frantic 30 seconds, he bolts from the coop, bruised and breathless. Turning back, he sees the old farmer standing calmly, untouched, with not a single chicken bothering him. "Why didn't they attack you?" the young man asks in disbelief. The farmer tips his hat and says, "Lesson 1, son. When dealing with chickens, always dress impeccably." A student failed in law and decided to make a deal with professor. "Sir, do you know everything about law?" Professor: "Yes." Student: "If you can answer this question, I will accept my final marks, but if you can't, you have to give me A." Professor: "Agreed." Boy asked, "What is legal but not logical, logical but not legal, and neither legal nor logical?" Professor thought about it for hours and pondered but could not find the answer. He had to finally give up as he really did not know the answer. He gave the boy his A. The following day, the professor asked the same question to his students. He was shocked when all of them raised their hands. He asked one student. He answered, "You are 65, married to 28-year-old woman. This is legal but not logical. Your wife is having an affair with a 23-year-old boy. This is logical but not legal. Your wife's boyfriend has failed in his exam, and yet you have given him an A. This is neither logical nor legal." The professor collapsed. A dog sees a "now hiring" poster outside a computer shop. It says, "Must be able to type, must be able to program, must be bilingual." The dog grabs the poster in his mouth and walks inside. The manager laughs but decides to test him. "Okay, first, type me a letter." Half an hour later, the dog has typed a flawless letter. The manager is stunned. "Fine." But can you program? 20 minutes later, the dog has built a fully working website for the store. The manager shakes his head. Incredible, but you're still a dog. The dog points his paw at the poster. Equal opportunity employer. The manager sighs. All right, but there's no way you're bilingual. The dog looks him in the eye and says, meow. Two 9-story buildings stood side by side, their windows providing an all-too-clear view into each other's lives. One day, Alex leaned out of his window and called to his neighbor across the way, "Hey, Michael, when's your birthday?" Michael, surprised by the random question, leaned out and replied, "It's in May." "Why do you ask?" Alex grinned. "Because I've got the perfect gift for you." "Oh, yeah? And what's that?" "Well," Alex said, smirking, "since I can see everything every time your wife gets a little affectionate, I thought I'd get you some window curtains." Michael's face turned red, but he wasn't one to back down. "All right then, Alex. When's your birthday?" "July," Alex replied, raising an eyebrow. "Why do you ask?" Michael grinned slyly. "Because I've got the perfect gift for you, too." "Oh, really?" "What's that?" "Binoculars," Michael shot back, "so you can finally see whose wife that really is." A housemaid calls her boss and says, "I've got some good and bad news. Well, give me the bad news first. Your dog died. My dog died. When did that happen? After the horse kicked it? Well, why in the world did the horse kick it? Because the stables were on fire. The stables were on fire. I just built them. Well, the flames managed to spread from the house somehow." The house? The house caught fire? How did that happen? "A candle fell off of your dad's coffin." My dad died. When did that happen? Soon after your mother's funeral, I believe. My mother died too? How has such tragedy struck me on my holiday to Spain? Well, damn you, woman, what's the good news? Well, the heat from the flames brought the dandelions up high before the spring. I mowed the lawn today, and after finishing up, I sat down with a cold beer in hand. The day was absolutely beautiful, and the drink gave me the perfect excuse for some deep, uninterrupted thinking. As I sat there, my wife walked by and asked, "What are you doing?" "Nothing," I replied. Now, the reason I said nothing instead of just thinking is simple. If I had admitted to thinking, she would have followed up with, "Thinking about what?" And that would have led to a whole conversation about how men are, in fact, deep thinkers on a wide range of topics, something that often invites more questions than answers. Eventually, my thoughts wandered to one of life's great debates. Is giving birth more painful than getting kicked in the nuts? Women always insist that childbirth is far worse, but I can't help but wonder, how would they know? After another beer and a bit more deductive reasoning, I think I've cracked the code. Here's my conclusion. Getting kicked in the nuts is more painful than childbirth. Obviously, I have no first-hand experience of childbirth, but hear me out. A year or so after giving birth, many women say something like, it'd be nice to have another baby. But you will never hear a man say, I think I'd like another kick in the nuts. And with that, I rest my case. Time for another beer. Maybe a nap, too. In a dimly lit room filled with the faint scent of incense, the mystic gazed into her crystal ball, her expression somber. "I won't sugarcoat this," she said, her voice low and foreboding. "Prepare yourself. Your husband will meet a violent and tragic end before the year is out." The woman across from her gasped, her face pale and drawn. She stared at the mystic, then at the flickering candle casting eerie shadows on the walls, and finally down at her trembling hands. After a moment of silence, she took a deep breath, steadying herself. Though fear gripped her, there was one question she needed answered. Fixing the mystic with an unwavering gaze, she asked, her voice calm but deliberate, "Will I be found innocent?" Teacher: Johnny, if I gave you 20 eggs and took 5, how many are left? Johnny, confidently, 100 eggs. Teacher: How on earth do you have 100 eggs? Johnny replies.